Hello and welcome to this webinar, Ask Me Anything with Andrea Volpini. Andrea, it's a pleasure to have you on the show again. And yeah, where are you calling from?
I'm in Milan today. I had a talk at the Artificial Intelligence Festival in Milan. I didn't expect so many people on stage. Usually I speak to around 30, 40 person, and I found hundreds of people listening about AI in the content space. And so it was pretty exciting.
Interesting. What was it that you were discussing in the festival?
So I shared the work that we're doing with AI agents in the context of content creation, AI agents as a way for capturing new intents to interact with your audience on different platforms. I built some prototypes, some GPTs that people can use to interact with the content on a website. They use WordLift, our product. So new ways of doing SEO.
I mean, it's such a interesting time to be in because you have the capability of using generative AI to create content. Now, is that based in facts? Is that based on interpreted facts, statistical composites of data? How do you make sure that it has a human hand in it to make it valuable to an end consumer, safe, responsible, all that stuff? I mean, you're probably working around this very
Um,
nebulous idea of content creation, right?
there are some kind of underlying principle that we're working towards that I believe we should keep in mind. In a way, there is a level of creativity that needs to be enabled. So we have to empower creators to create AI experiences, and at the same time, how does the human in the loop interact with the technology? That's pivotal. So our solution to that is really the creation of a graph and the use of ontologies. And this is kind of a 1970 technique to model information, and it's top down. So it has its own limitation. But right now, when you build an agent, you can combine forces from these top down approaches that tells you, hey, this is interesting for this topic. These other content is interesting for this other topic, and then you go kind of bottom up and you train the model. You kind of fine tune the model with your tone of voice, with existing content, and then you combine the two approaches and you try to see what creates value for your audience. So once again, we're back into the creative part. Then there is the question of how much of the interaction is owned by the platform and how much is in the hands of the creator. And so data, it makes this transition happen, because of course, if data is all on the platform side, like it used to be in Web 2.0, where the social network kind of controlled data, then the creator is exploited. On the other hand, the creator needs to interact with the platform in order to gain traction, audience. And so, in between, there is a share of data, and it needs to be a share of data. Like, we saw it in search engine. The fair use of your content can create value for a crawler that builds an index and that allows the end user to access to your content through a search query. There is data in between. The data moves from the creators to the platform and then to the end user. Now with AI, this paradigm remains, but it's still to be defined.
You've said some interesting things here, where it's finding the way to keep humans in the loop in the right way. It's finding the ways to empower creators, to better provide information, services, products, etc., with the audience that they're engaging with, whoever their customers are. But before we get too deeply into that, I mean, it's certainly a good appetizer for the conversation. I want to talk more on your background, who you are, and what you've done, because for me, it's incredibly rich, and it lays a very good context as to how deep this conversation can go. Um, I don't know if you want to talk about coming to America, going back, and then your serial entrepreneurial journey, but
Yeah.
I welcome you to invite a little bit more details on the work you've done.
So yeah, there are different ways in which I can tell this story, but let's look at some shift that I made in life. I dropped out of university, um, and um, and this kind of brought me into the internet of the 90s. In 1995, 96, I started to build internet application websites, and I kind of devoted myself first to supporting the connectivity part, working in the internet service providing industry. Getting people online was kind of a mission that I felt, and then I started to move into building apps for these people that came online, and so I went through a series of phases. But I built a first web agency, and then this was sold, and it became a larger web agency. And then this web agency started to work on content management, because as we were building more experiences, more website, managing content became crucial. And so,
I do want to interject and say you're selling yourself short. You started doing the web agency before agencies were cool, and then
yeah,
you encountered a problem in the market. The market didn't exist, so you
right.
became an internet service provider. I mean, I think that's a really big
Yeah.
aspect.
And also, I mean, at some point when I started to look at creation of web experiences in the 90s, I mean, end of the 90s, people were doing, static pages. And we started to look at how do we automate these. And so we worked extensively on building a content management system. And at the end of the 90s, I mean, you still had front page, or, you had these kind of software that we're still building pages. I mean, it was still, kind of distant the time where we started to plug databases behind web pages. And we already started to venture into creating content management system. And that was pretty advanced, for the time being. As a matter of fact, yes, I started to build one of, the largest website in Italy, the country where I'm from. And then as I started to approach this gigantic amount of information that was coming into our systems, especially I was working at that time with the parliament. So there was this also need for creating publicly accessible information. And this idea of creating pages, it kind of fell short. It wasn't enough to build the pages. And so I started to look at what Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web, was preaching at that time, which was to building a web of data. And that was, kind of an important shift in my career, because then, on the entrepreneurial front, I kind of, exited my previous agency, and I started to create another set of companies on the idea of building a semantic content management system. So building a tool that would create data. And that was, I don't know, 2010, 2009, we started to do the first research projects on how do we help people build data on the web. And of course, people in 2009 were still, struggling to build websites. But I was already looking at, what is, how do we help them make data, because data can be interoperable. And the vision that Berners-Lee had already involved the presence of agents, the presence of a form of AI that would reason over a piece of data behind the web page. So there was this, layer of metadata that would flow like water, and it would help you connect meanings behind pages. And that was a fascinating idea. 2009, I was totally, captured by the idea, and so I started to move also my career into more into research, because it was still, kind of a research topic. And then, yeah, 2013, I was involved in the creation of a spin-off from a research institution in Austria that was actually building knowledge management system. Because then from the content management, I moved into data, and then I started to move more into knowledge management. And so we started this company that after 10 years, it's doing great. And it's building, one of the best tools for large enterprises doing AI and information extraction. And then all of a sudden, I realized that the creation of this semantic editor that we were kind of prototyping was actually good for SEO. And after 20 years on the web, I mean, I wasn't so much into SEO, to be honest, because my role was always to build the web, not to make the web accessible. And so I lost possibly a lot of opportunities along the way, because I didn't capture the value of SEO until yeah, I think what was it, 2016? Boris, who was the CEO of Rank, a Belgian SEO company, he kind of followed me, and then on Skype he said, what you're doing is amazing and it's great for SEO. And I said, really? It's helpful for SEO? So kind of things started to connect. That search engine wanted to become smarter. So this web of data was actually helpful for improving the quality of search results. And so I started, the journey with Warelift, in with the idea of helping people building graphs, helping people building knowledge graphs. But 2016, 2017, it was a hard sell. It's hard to sell a knowledge graph. It's a way of doing SEO. And who are you? I mean, you haven't done SEO in the last 20 years. You build internet companies, yes, but I mean, you haven't done SEO. And so I started little by little to fall in love with SEO. And then the more I fell in love, the more I got into developing automation for SEO using AI. So that was a little bit of my path. And now that leads me today to see agents as a new form of platform where data and content together can reach an audience and can create value for the creator and the audience on the other side. And I'm stuck in between. I'm building the tools to help the creators build data in a semantically rich way, and hopefully to help the audience find what they need in the best possible way.
Interesting evolution. I mean, you've come back full circle, right? Where you started something.
At best. For me, it's like in the 90s when I was building website. Right now with these AI apps, it's the same excitement that I had when I built the first website. I built the first website about my school with my old school partner, David. And we're still building now AI system with the same spirit. I mean, it's new. We don't know exactly who's going to use an AI app. We don't know exactly how these AI apps are going to be used. I mean, what are the limitations of the technology that we have today, and what it will happen tomorrow? I mean, just like in the 90s when you were building, a dynamic web page with a database, it was like fascinating piece of technology. Everything was possible.
Hmm. So this leads us back to the beginning of the conversation. Where to now? I mean, there's I, I would like to say, and I think I've had this conversation a couple times with people on the podcast. I think we may have touched upon this subject in the podcast. This is the second industrial revolution for information. I mean, how do we work around this rapid change of pacing, rapid evolution of GPTs and things like that? I mean, there's just so much. Every day there's something new. Every day there's something new. You're writing the hype. You're trying to figure out fact from fiction for marketing, whatever. Um, how are you reasoning with it? Let's start there.
So one crucial aspect for me these days is the human value, like realizing now at full potential how important humans are in this new AI ecosystem that we're building, because we are combining, you know, induction with deduction, and we're kind of entering into this abductive phase where bottom-up statistical approaches and top-down layers of the technologies are converging, and there is a level of uncertainty that these new technologies are bringing in. A calculator doesn't bring any uncertainty. It operates and gives you, a way of doing things in a deterministic way. But when you approach an AI system, then it changes. It becomes fuzzy in the way in which it can respond, stochastic if we want, use the proper term. Now, this brings at the core the human again. And it seems counterintuitive because on one side, we feel the pressure of, jobs being replaced. We feel the pressure of, technologies making workflows more efficient, and therefore a pressure on the increase on productivity. But the reality is that this is the most human intensive technology that we could have built. This
Mm.
is a technology that brings first and foremost the human at the center of the system. And so, but there is a catch. There is an important catch here, because it only works this way as long as we strive for being adaptable. And this is not granted. A cashier working in a supermarket as a role, it is not adaptable. And therefore, it can risk to be replaced. The society hasn't built enough learning, enough skills for everyone to be adaptable. And we have to work on that. We have to make as many people as possible adaptable, because people are at the center of this revolution, like it or not, but only as long as they demonstrate a high level of adaptability.
Let me just put the ticker on if anybody has any hard questions that they want to throw out, or they have any curiosities. Um, Interesting that you say humans are at the center of this. Um, I mean, this is just a faster way of communicating ideas. I mean, before you had to pencil out and draft and construct and refine and put together ideas before you can communicate into the world. Now you have we're not writing horses of the mind. We're writing Ferraris. If we want to stay Italian, uh, we can rapidly scaffold an outline of some sort of book or idea system and rapidly produce, refine through humans, and just create content en masse without losing too much of the meaning. So long as we ground it in the wisdom of humans. But
So the fact that human are at the very core of AI, it's something that I recently realized, because in an unexpected way, because I wasn't looking for a new role for human beings, to be honest. I was looking for, I look at the technology, and I always look at the evolution of technology as a way of creating society, building society. For me, is a cultural aspect, technology, and in fact, technology, in if we projected 500 years forward, I mean, we will not remember technology. I mean, it doesn't change the history. Technology can change there are some changes in history because of technology, but they are pretty minimal if you think about it. But right now, the real change is that the human is at the center of the process, because it's empowered to do amazing thing, and it's empowered to be extremely resilient and creative. But yes, to adapt, because the environment is changing at tremendous speed, and this is not so obvious.
So people need to get their hands on this technology. They need to reason with it. They need to experiment. They need
Right.
to ingest knowledge from people that have thought about it from different perspectives.
So then, exactly what people should do, right? Because I mean, today I spoke with a lady that at a gardening magazine, and she kind of felt a little bit overwhelmed by my talk on agents, a community of agents doing SEO, and kind of twisting the title of the presentation from A to B in a semi-autonomous way. But the reality is that people should focus on their data. So that's what I see central at this point in time, is that each one of us should look at what is the content that we are good at producing, what is the data, what is the archive that we have, what is the knowledge that we have that we can make available to society at large. And that's what humans should do in a AI ecosystem like the one that we're building these days. So focus on your own private data.
I have to ask a hard question because it's particularly relevant. Um, yes, it's a good idea to focus on the data and the things that we can control. What about the data that is being taken without warrant, or do
Right.
we
I
have?
mean, this is very critical. I had a slide. I usually keep now this slide about consent, because consent, it's I mean, we don't realize how much consent is relevant for a content creator. Um, and uh, and I mean, is it fair use to get my data for training your model? I mean, not really, unless you're creating value back to me. And we, as a society, this is still kind of debated. We still have a strong debate between the AI providers and the content creators on this topic, but it shouldn't be debated. I mean, either you create value for the creator, or you shouldn't use the content. I mean, you don't have the consent. And that's why we want to kind of look back at what is the private data, what is the data that we own, what is the data that we have, the rights to use within our system, and also what is the unique factor to create content. I mean, now everyone finally realized that we have to build retrieval augmented generation platform for creating content. And I've been doing this for now quite a while, because for me it was obvious that it's impossible to reuse someone else's content that has been kind of piled up into the parameters of a language model. You can't use it, and also it's irrelevant. I mean, it's misleading, irrelevant, problematic. So you want to use your own content, and now we start looking at these rack system, and they are prehistorical, right? They are prehistorical machine to kind of create content out of the data that you're providing, but they are prehistorical because you know, they are just ground zero of what we need to build in order to let people value their data, their content, their expertise. And so that's where I'm focusing now most of the attention. How can we build the best graph retrieval augmented generation platform? That's what I'm 100% focused on.
Where do we start? I mean, the premise of our podcast episode was data as a foundation for business strategy. Through that context, where do we begin in this consolidating the data? How do we
So
bridge this to agents?
So one thing is that, of course, we want the agent to learn about first-party data. and third-party data and second-party data. This again, it seems that in most cases it gets lost, but there is data that you own, there is data that your platform is producing, and that's first-party data that you want to stay focused on. And then now I'm starting to envision, especially in the context of SEO, and I'm very happy that we have someone like Noah that knows a lot about SEO and knows also a lot about AI in general.
He said, "A great conversation, y'all." Sorry
Yeah,
about that. No, I was
and
embedded in the conversation.
Noah is an example of a brilliant mind that kind of can see forward, and this is why I always think SEO really are in this point in time where they can really interpret what's happening, because they've been working for decades on behind a machine complicated like Google to understand what is the format of the content that I should prepare in order for the audience behind Google to find it. And so SEO for me in this AI economy are strategic players. That's kind of my vision of SEO, which of course meets people like Noah. But so the point is that right now for me an SEO has to become an ontologist. An SEO needs to start designing ontology, because when I started, the reason I started into SEO was because search engine, realized that they needed a common vocabulary, and they found in schema.org a linked data vocabulary that would allow them to describe the content behind a web page in a formal way. Okay, so it's not an ontology schema, but it's a vocabulary. Of course, there is an important distinction there to be made, but I started with this vocabulary to describe the things on the web. This is a web page belonging to a local business that operates in Milan and I don't know, is selling coffees. But right now, we moved past that. And whether it's a search engine or it's an AI agent, there is the capacity of learning about the relationship between the different entities. And so we're moving from kind of structuring content using the schema vocabulary to structuring content using ontology. And so I'm also investing more on this idea of the search engine optimization ontology, an ontology for SEO, to make SEO data interoperable, but also to teach agents, how we can make that content accessible to the audience that we're looking at. So data, it's also about the schema of the data. So first thing, you want to kind of differentiate first party data, third party data, what we're talking about, what do we own. Second, you want to start designing the relationship within the data, and you can do it now using a language model. You can model your existing data and formalize the relationship that matters for the business using, an RDF graph or any form of language that would allow you to build an ontology. And so these are kind of the steps. Then you want, kind of the technology to work on the ontology itself, because it's only for the solving the cold start problem that you build the data, because then you want to create something new, and we're not there yet, but we have to prepare to get there. I mean, we are starting to see workflows where agents are starting to create something that has the ability to at least create a new path for information discovery. And that's where I see the direction. I mean, getting back, why a RAG is prehistorical. A RAG is prehistorical because it doesn't have in its own architecture the ability to create something new. It regurgitates the existing, it reformats the existing, but it doesn't create anything new. And so we need agents at different levels of the process to build the new knowledge from the pre-existing know-how that we have.
Um, Thank you for joining us, Noah. So one thing it's interesting to me is the early adoption of technology and pursuit of entrepreneurial ventures on your behalf. I think throughout this conversation, we've gotten hints as to part of the problem of being able to safely, responsibly fully use the benefits from technology. I mean, for one thing, it's technical literacy, being able to fully understand the responsible parameters and the full capabilities, the full range of capabilities that these tools, right, like a hammer, like a pen, like whatever, what they can unlock in terms of human productivity, human creativity, scaffolding ideas, augmenting the things that you already created to create new like works. I make 5 paintings. I take those pictures, I feed it into a model, and then I say, "Okay, give me another 5 paintings that look like this in my style." That's cool, that's responsible, that's consensual. But, now we're talking about agents. So now we're gonna have, synthetic, reasoners that are capable of taking data, information, knowledge, and doing something with it. This is the next level. What skills deficits exist? I think you mentioned ontology being one of them, modeling knowledge, modeling data, modeling these things, and then integrating them at the different layers that they're in, right? Data being one, information being another, knowledge being the third, and then how do we make a nice sandwich from all that?
So, first of all, we have to realize that synthetic data, it's going to be the way forward. You know, we are
What
pretty
data?
synthetic
Okay,
data. It's going to be the way forward. So we have to accept that it's $1 trillion business on one end, but it's also the way in which future AI will get better. Okay, and this is very tough for human to realize because we haven't coped with our own existing biological capacity with existing knowledge. And
right.
so the fact that we are building something that has done already what it could do with human knowledge, and it's starting to create synthetic knowledge, it kind of scares us because it puts us off track. We think that human knowledge is so vast that should be sufficient. But now we are realizing that, well, it's not really sufficient. The new evolution of neural network architectures are all based on some level of synthetic content and synthetic data. Now, what is left in a knowledge graph? What is left then in a knowledge graph when we start creating content in an autonomous way? The rules, right? So we need to have some guardrails. We need to have some constraint within the system, and this can be modeled. So this can be brought into the ontology. This can be brought into the kind of the graph that the system will use for looking at is this legit or not? Because problem is that of course a machine doesn't have any form of consciousness, and it seems obvious, but now it's becoming an issue because if it doesn't have consciousness, can it get a body? Can something that is unconscious have a body? And I mean, a car that it's using self-driving, it's an autonomous vehicle, and and he has a mass, and it can kind of drive on a street, and it can run you down, and it doesn't have a conscience. It will not realize that it killed you or someone else.
It's
And
just another
so
bump on the road. Yeah.
we need to definitely find expressive way of condensing guardrailing rules, because we do have a conscious mind, and we do have some we do have, of course, ethical and moral constraints that are not part of this new system that we're building, and so we have to work on that.
I'm not I mean, whatever's happening, it's a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Anytime that there's a new iteration on paradigm shifts on technology that's super powerful, there you can't put it back in the box. But it's going to fundamentally impact a lot of areas of our society. Now, you mentioned synthetic data. That's cool. Like we can only discover so many plants or chemicals or this or that. we can use that our human created knowledge to create better products, better food systems, better whatever. Um, how do we make sure that that value created and all these things remain in line with the human spirit? I mean, so many questions, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the alignment problem again brings us back to this idea of creating a way of formalizing common sense rules. And because of the fact that the technology will need synthetic data, because in order to create evolution, we need to create something that it's not there yet. And so we need to speculate about options. And human knowledge has created a vast amount of information, but this is not sufficient, especially if we work with today's system. Now we do have to change the architecture of existing AI platforms, because we have to go versus in the direction of sparse models. We have to start to combine neurosymbolic systems where we can also tap into the symbolic knowledge. But even when we do that, we will still need synthetic data. So we have to focus as human on kind of encoding the common sense, encoding ethical value, encoding algorithm that preserve human values and human lives. So this work, it's really at its infancy. It has started on the wrong foot, because of course the system, it's capitalistic, and so is looking at profit as a main target, and of course building a knowledge graph of common sense. Well, I mean, some research institution have done some work. There is also, I mean, the constitutional AI system that Anthropic has started to. I mean, there are some interesting initiatives in that space, but I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we're really at the infancy of that process. And at the same time, we're moving very fast with the creation of synthetic data that, for me, it's a tremendous opportunity for creating new knowledge and systems that are smarter than human, but it's also very scary because we have no control.
Yeah. And decentralizing this power, any actor can gain a disproportionate amount of impact in the
Yeah.
world. That's another thing that I'm thinking about, you know.
Yeah, decentralization is only a partial solution, though, because I mean, it's an important step, I think, like it is open source. But in the beginning, I was very much into the idea that safer AI would have been open so that anyone could look at. But then right now you start questioning this approach, because I mean, open source language models are the one that are being now exploited to change the economical system or create a terroristic attack. I mean, you wouldn't use Gemini from Google to create your next terrorist attack, because there is some level of guardrailing there that it doesn't give you the confidence that you can get when you run Olama on your laptop, and and you can build weapons with it. So so this idea that I had in the past, that open source was a solution for kind of alignment and safety, it's not there yet, to be honest, because I didn't put into account how accessible this technology would be, you
Yeah.
know and so it is not
One
about
person downloads it, they can just distribute it at will infinitely.
And
Yeah.
so that kind of changed a lot the way in which we perceive also safety. And I don't have a solution at the moment. I can see that this balance between closed source and open source in AI is not as bad as I thought in the beginning, and I'm not all in with the idea that all should be open source.
Yeah. I'm not gonna put you I'm not gonna roast you over the fire on this question anymore because you're one person and I just wanted to get your perspective. But as I said before, it's a Pandora's box. It's
Yeah.
people put this out. You can't put the thing back in the box. It's
No.
now with us. We have to live with it. We have to adapt with it. I think you made some pretty clear descriptors of what is required for it to fully take shape. I mean, it's still formless in its infancy. It's still sort of a developing fetus, but we need ontologists, we need modelers,
Yep.
um, we need the people that are already working with this technology in the previous stage, SEO
Yep.
and website development and technical communications, to understand how to amplify their message, how to amplify ideas in a constructive way. Um, but that in itself is another set of things to do. You know, it's still kind
Well,
of
the other
difficult.
thing is that, of course, that I mentioned, but we need humans. We need confrontation. We need debates. We need gatherings. We need events. Yes, I mean it's a Pandora box, and we cannot get back. There's no red button to undo whatever has happened already on this front. So we need more human interaction, and that's where I see really the value, and that's why I'm saying, right now, right here, humans are central in the evolution of future technology more than ever before. And so, but yeah, these are elements. I mean, encoding common knowledge and human ethical value into the systems. This is something that my next startup maybe should be about that. Maybe it shouldn't be about automating marketing tasks at scale, but it should be about encoding ethical value, because there is a clear need for it, and there's not a solution. There's no one definite vocabulary for creating ethical algorithm, for example. The Catholic Church is kind of jumping on these, but there's no standardization, and there's not really a technical leadership on it, because there is an incentive problem. So we
Yeah.
do have to we do have to build an incentive first in order to kind of look at the problem in a more serious way.
One thing that kind of was like a bag of hammers dropped on my head was the fact that we do have biases, we do have preferences. I might like cheese, you might hate cheese. But take that idea and multiply it across every chasm, every crevice of the human mind, and even if you take your own data and convert that into synthetic data and reproduce it and multiply it, and then use that to create your product knowledge graph, service knowledge graph, it's biased, and it may inevitably hurt somebody, you know, without you meaning to have a negative impact on other people. So,
I
I
have
mean,
less problem with that. I mean, information is biased. Humans are biased. I mean, I don't have a big problem with being biased as long as we guarantee a level of observability into the system. I mean, if you read Der Spiegel in Germany, I understand how you think politically, and that's totally okay. I mean, I don't like, for example, I mean, we do a lot of work with large e-commerce platform, and now we're still in a phase where we have to make everything without gender. Everything has to be gender neutral. I mean, as a marketer, I don't see value in creating a communication which is gender neutral per se, because I don't think that I respect the identity in that way. And I don't think I do a good marketing. I don't do my marketer role at best if I apply gender neutrality to each and every product description that I create. So we have to be very focused on making the system observable, explainable, but even to the level of biases. Okay, right? So we have to make it open that I don't know, I don't like cheese, or I love cheese, or I like these and I don't like that. We have to be very transparent, but I don't think that we should change the way in which humans are. I mean, humans are polarized. So, and our brain works in such a way that, if there is a position, we will tend to converge. Even thermodynamics will explain that, we'll tend to converge on one side or the other at a certain point in a system. So I think that we have to be more conscious on making the system accessible and transparent, rather than kind of unbiasing I mean, some things, of course, that needs to be unbiased, but I mean, I'm more keen on preserving the rights of a creator and not training the model on someone else's data than unbiasing, for example.
Well, that's just a can of worms because, as you said, everybody has their own set of preferences, and the world is made up of infinite viewpoints and
Yeah,
infinite configurations, infinite capacities. So there's nothing we could do with that.
yeah.
Um, so let's talk about let's get away from the ethics and all these things. I think we covered that for enough. There are tangible things that are coming into the purview of your practice of your business. GPT Store launched. You know, a Microsoft Copilot launched. There's things that are going to be impacting SEO. You know, will these LLMs become search engines? People certainly treat them like that. Um, where do we go with that?
So I think that there are a lot of interesting things happening these days. I mean, OpenAI is rumored to be in the process of creating a web search solution using its own system, building basically an index on top of the existing language model. I mean, we see the value of perplexity on, I think, a day-to-day in our day-to-day information diet. Perplexity is doing a great job. I mean, someone is criticizing Perplexity to be just an OpenAI wrapper. Others are loving Perplexity for creating, a different search experience. I'm kind of half in between. I think that Perplexity still lacks, a solid graph of entities in order to kind of build a dialogue that I can kind of move along with. But I love the evolution of generative search. Now, how does this impact the work of marketers in SEO? Well, this is pretty interesting to see. And so I've been prototyping apps now inside the GPT store. I'm building agents in Agin Chat, which is kind of this open source environment for building assistant. And I start to see that there is a new scene. I mean, the consumer, the audience might no longer be on, behind the search engine, but might be behind the co-pilot. Today, I listened to a talk from Microsoft where they say that 70% of the traffic on Copilot, it's actually coming from Google. So Google, it's kind of nurturing its competitor, and I can see also traffic from Google moving into Perplexity, and I would do the same game, build kind of platform and AI application that can kind of drive the general interest from the existing social media search engine into a more fine-tune AI application. So AI application are becoming the new websites, if you want. And so
Mhm.
I'm starting to build these on top of the knowledge graph. And I think that this is SEO. I think this is a way of kind of reaching the consumer and also the physical world because of the advance in multimodality. The physical world becomes for me, kind of a canvas where I can start the search. And so that's I think that's pretty interesting to play with.
That's always been the premise of science fiction, even from the earlier time periods where you can put on glasses and you can say, "Oh, who is that Andrea Volpini and what's his biography? What this, that, and the other." Or I look at a plant and it tells me how old it is, where it's originated from. Is it poisonous? Is it good? Is it bad? Um, we're moving towards that where we have these agents or interpreters, right? Taking some sort of information, computer vision, natural language. Um, what's the other ones that you were saying? Models, like
Well,
language
even the smell, the five senses, including the smell, can
interpreting.
actually can actually trigger an interactive experience with a piece of content, with a piece of information. And this is a new form of search because I can kind of leave a specific scent that would activate an experience. And I mean, we see also now with Apple investing more on augmented reality and goggles. That the way forward, it's definitely a form of mixed reality that it's activated by the environment. And so, as an SEO, I have to think at the environment as a new source of traffic, as my new trigger for the customer journey.
The whole point of the internet was to figure a way to consolidate all the knowledge, was it not? To find a way to communicate ideas, information, knowledge, wisdom in one place?
I think that the original idea of the web was, yes, to build this massive knowledge base. Now AI is giving us a complete different opportunity, which is to reason on this vast amount of information. The idea of AI, of an AI application, is to make you think, is to make you elaborate, is to inference on the information. So in the first phase of the internet, we focused on building information. Now we want to create knowledge by making inferences on this amount of information. And that's the opportunity that AI brings. This is why, again, the human is central.
Well, initially it was consolidation, then it was retrieval, then it was Google started, and then we had the birth of search engines and then search engine optimization. Now you're saying it's true. We I would Google how do I make an apple pie? I would absorb the information through my eyeballs, interpret that, and then reason on how to do that manually. But now we have Alexa, now we have interpreting agents that consume that information and make it digestible for people. So you're
Yeah.
saying we're going to bleed into all the other senses and we're going to be able to fully telecommunicate, teleinterface with the internet uh, with external devices. I mean, that's the world that's the way the world is going, right? I'm seeing videos of people wearing those goggles, Apple
Yep.
goggles, Apple Vision, walk the streets and engage with the public, and it's freaky, it's different, but it is
Yeah, but it's just the web. I mean, we had already Second Life. I mean, we've been doing this since the cyberpunk era. I mean, we read enough science fiction books that we know how it's going to be. I mean, it's a matrix. And now it's becoming more real. It's becoming more and more actionable. So I'm totally excited about it. I mean, I was very bored about the web as
static
just
representation.
a static screen. I was already working with 3D VRLM, markup language for virtual reality in the 90s. As much as I wanted, the web to become real, to become 3D. Now, finally, with mixed reality, we can see the web while taking the bus, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, we can take our phones and 3D scan buildings and then print
Yeah,
them in our kitchen with a 3D printer and plastic.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty amazing. um all right, well, we have a few minutes on the clock. What would be your, we really didn't get too many questions. I think we covered a lively discussion as it was. What would you say are your next steps in undergoing this journey? I mean, you really have been like sitting in this idea for a very long time. What are your priorities now?
So right now, I want to build the best technology for graph retrieval. So I want to focus much on helping people build and enrich graphs, but also helping creators you know build new audiences by using these graph and the technology that allow us to interact with these graph and AI. I see AI application as a new frontier for building an audience. And so I want to focus on kind of the layers required for building these AI apps. for marketing these AI apps. I mean, why your GPT it's more famous than my GPT. How my team of agents can be more valuable. Kind of understand the dynamics of how these agents will transform the consumption of content, while keeping, of course, a close eye on what platforms like Google do, because of course they will still act as a gatekeeper for some time. So we have to be able to interact efficiently with the gatekeepers, whether it's TikTok or Google. For me, it's pretty much the same. It
Mm.
still requires SEO. It still requires a deep understanding of the technology on one side and the search demand on the other. So that's pretty much what I'm planning to do. But I want to focus a lot of attention on helping people build better agents, better AI application.
Okay. And any advice that you'd give to people that are navigating this changing landscape? I mean, it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
So how can you empower people to pick up a revolver and defend themselves in this?
So be adaptable first. It's my first lesson is that I have to be adaptable every day, and people working with me have to be adaptable every day. We have to cope with a technology that it's evolving at tremendous speed. Second point is, of course, as we reiterated on it, it's build your own data. Make sure that you're creating your data. Make sure that you have control of the platform that hosts the data and everything in between. We don't want to fall back into the social network era where your precious content falls in the end of a platform. You want to retain the value while using platform for dissemination. You want to keep control over your data, and then be creative. I mean, be human. That's my best suggestion.
Okay. Let me see. Hmm. You also mentioned agents for capturing new audiences and SEO as a topic. I don't know if we dived deeply into it. I think we mentioned agents being the new reasoners, the new interpreters of information to disseminate like different data sources, different information sources to give instructions, so people are more productive. What do you see changing in that in the near future? I mean, they're these products are just being released and they're kind of funky and buggy, and people still don't know how to adapt to use them effectively. What kind of like workflow investments or experiments should people be attempting?
I think that, like with the app stores when they started, we needed to understand the dynamics of these app stores, and then and now it's pretty much again a similar story. But there is one crucial difference, is that with traditional apps, the store had some fundamental specifics. So an app on iOS could access certain functionality of the operating system, and it was different on Android. They were a lot more constrained, and there were a lot more limitation compared to today's AI agents. One, because of course we kind of removed the complexity of user interface, at least momentarily. We're using this text-based interface that remind me of the early days of the internet. So we're back to the terminal, which I kind of like. And I know that this is an intermediate step, but definitely the fact that we are moving into a dialogic universe, it's making this application way more interoperable. I mean, I don't have to kind of draw from the stacks so many rules and so many, constraints. I can be more free to express with a conversational application like we're seeing today on GPT's store. And so definitely we have to focus on that, and we have to focus on what is the best UX for this conversation. I mean, how do we want to kind of evolve the user interface from this terminal-like experience that we have now on ChatGPT, on Gemini? I mean, what is the UX there? I mean, some people have introduced the concept of just-in-time user interface, which I like a lot. So the fact that the agent has to craft the content, but also the way in which the content is presented to the user. Because if these AI apps are becoming the new website, well, guess what? I don't want to have all the website look like Terminal in the 90s. We have to make them way more fancy than that. Maybe we have to give them body. Maybe the next AI agent will have a body and will kind of move in a room. And in order to talk to it, you have to get to the room. I think that we have to be more creative on the way in which we build the user interaction, but they're definitely less constrained than when we build apps from the stack. I mean, from the technology stack that allow us to present our idea to the public, and that's good.
I think you also mentioned something interesting. The content and the context matter because just because these are reasoning agents doesn't mean that they'll deliver the right information to the right person in the right medium. You're not going to tell a 5-year-old kid the same thing that you would a 4-year-old man or a 30-year-old woman or whatever, right? It's
Yeah, this is
context.
kind of hyper personalization. That's what I call it. I mean, AI allow us to kind of change the message to and hyper personalize it to the audience. And I think that's a beautiful functionality. But these are, again, it gives us tremendous opportunity on the user interface. I mean, we have to be way more creative than today's chatbot demonstrate.
Well, certainly a lot of food for thought. Andrea, it's been lovely speaking with you, and I hope that the audience, even though they didn't ask too many questions, I hope they got bombarded with a series of ideas and things to consider. But yeah, we're gonna have to do this again in some other fashion, man.
Good. Thanks again for organizing it, and then speak to you soon.